Welcome in to Carp's Corner, and got a big show for you today. A lot of great things happen, a lot of excitement out there, as always. So we're right on the heels of the Super Bowl, and so people always ask me, what do you talk about with the NFL after the Super Bowl? Well, here's the good news. NFL has set up a calendar to dominate your full year. You have the Super Bowl. They pushed it back a week, added another round of the playoffs, or another round of the regular season, added a playoff team, but they made sure that you always have the bye week in there now for the Super Bowl. And so with all of those things happening, now all of a sudden you've got 2.5 weeks till the combine starts. So the NFL calendar dominating. And wait a couple more weeks after that, start of free agency. Boom, that's going to take you for another month and a half and change. Then you get the draft there at the end of April. Ideally, they'd probably like to push that back to May again, but there was some resistance on the part of the players, the coaches, some of the teams. Getting less time with your young players, it can be tough, and it can be tough to kind of work with. So the NFL not fully trying to sacrifice their game for the expense of the calendar. Wait a couple more weeks, OTAs, mini camps. That takes you through early June. And then you kind of have that 6-week break where you kind of chill, relax, and then come August 1st, you got training camps again. There's going to be video. There'll be people there watching. And so with all of those things, the NFL dominates. And before you know it, you're right back to this point one more time. So the NFL dominates the calendar like nobody else. So we were going to have combine preview stuff coming up. So we're talking about free agency here, but still on the heels right now of the Super Bowl. And so there's a lot of news surrounding these Super Bowl teams and, potentially what it could look like. Could Sean McVay decide to retire? Does Aaron Donald retire? What happens? What's next with Matt Stafford? What do the Bengals do with Joe Burrow? We'll get into some of the news and notes surrounding those guys and some of my opinions. Some news out of college football, Cincinnati and Auburn, making some news with their coaches there. Some of the Super Bowl ratings. Play the ratings game. It's really a lot of fun to kind of see where the top 10 markets who watch the Super Bowl are located. Because I don't think it's where you might initially believe. Yeah, the top market, I think everybody would figure that out. But then afterwards, well, I think this goes to prove how people consume the NFL, how much of a national product it is. And so we'll get into that a little bit later. Matt Stafford, Hall of Famer, that was thrown around a lot. And we talked about, and I said it, this gold jacket playoff games, getting to a Super Bowl, winning one, what that does for him. And then what one prominent player is saying about him, and then putting his stats up and his accolades up against other people, which those are not always accurate. Stats are, and accolades are a part of it, but it does have to do with the quality of your team. People on better teams get more awards. That's just the reality of it. And then, both Stafford and Joe Burrow battling through some injuries there in the Super Bowl, how that potentially looks with it. And then Eric Weddle, came back out of retirement to, quote, chase a ring. Well, you catch one, and that's not always pain-free, if you will. So there's a lot of stuff that he's going to be battling there. And then also some Kyler Murray news that we're going to get into. He had a statement, regarding some of the shade that's been thrown at him, the $50 million price tag that was thrown out there. And, when that happens, there's always going to be a little bit of backlash on his side from his camp. And so he issues, like everybody does now, goes to Twitter or Instagram, social media, if you will, and throws his statement out of what he believes should be said and tries to control his own narrative. I wanted to start off college football right after the Super Bowl, but dive into college football. Cincinnati, they somehow managed to keep Luke Fickell. I had been told, UFC job, if he wanted to go out to Southern California, they were kind of waiting on him before, him ultimately kind of not showing much interest and then moving on to Lincoln Riley. But I think that that was closer than what people ultimately believed. Notre Dame, I think it would have been his if he would have shown interest early and said, hey, I'm willing to go up there. Don't worry about the playoff. But Luke didn't want to do that. He's going to stay with his team, going to stay with Cincinnati. A rare show and sign of respect for your current school now in this era of, job jumping. Most coaches say one thing publicly and then privately do another. And so Luke wasn't interested in any of that. And he's rewarded for it by Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati currently in the American Athletic Conference, they will be moving to the Big 12. We'll see how that timeline shakes out, when all that's going to transpire. But getting ahead of it right now, the Cincinnati Bearcats. And in their minds, they probably think about this. We're joining the Big 12. We have a chance to make our mark in there in a big way. I mean, you're going to have Oklahoma State, you have Texas Tech. There'll be some of the big schools. They'll be hanging out. Houston's coming in. They're going to swing big. Baylor's still there. They're one of the more prominent schools, and they've been pretty good. But we've got to get on par. And so by doing that, hey, we're up in Luke Fickell. We're up in your salary, $5 million a year for a school that's currently a non-Power 5 conference. Huge move. But if you think about it, look at the money that he's poured into the coffers. Made a New Year's Day 6 game in the Peach Bowl against Georgia. And then ultimately this year plays Alabama in the college football playoff. And so because of that, the amount of cash that he has generated for his school and the conference, unbelievable. And so he's worth every penny of this just for what he's already done, not even what he's going to do. And so not only with that, did they up his salary, but this is the big key. And folks that pay attention to college football, this is something that is always imperative and always critical. It's not just enough to pay your coach, but you have to invest in facilities. Cincinnati has done that. Nippert Stadium is kind of what it is. You're going to see about 45,000, but it's a great environment. But they've got an indoor built. They renovated and built completely new football stadium or football facilities about 15 years ago. They continue to upgrade them. That's key. It's a cool campus. It's right in urban downtown Cincinnati. Got all that going for them. So it has all of the other things that they need. But what else they did is they bumped the assistance pool about $1.5 million. And that's something that is very underrated. In college football now, you're only as good as your assistants. We talk about these head coaches and how great they are. Well, if you can't fill a staff with quality coaches, I don't care how good of a head coach you are. It doesn't matter. You're one of 11 guys. Plus, you're going to have analysts. You got your strength coach, your academic people, all of these different positions. You have to be able to fill them. You've got to pay those guys. You have to pay the ancillary positions like your analysts to be able to bring some of those guys in. Like those are critical roles that need to be filled. And a lot of times it's smaller programs or programs who don't operate the way a program would or should if they're actually trying to compete and win a national championship. That's the difference. And so adding $1.4 million to that payroll, massive for Cincinnati. So I think they're going to the Big 12. Their intent is going there. They're trying to compete and they're trying to win. And they're making that evident right now. A school who's trying to compete and win, and they're paying Gus Malzahn, $18, $20 million that they've got to pay out. They've got some issues, obviously with that. Moving on from him. And move on to Brian Harsin. We've detailed the number of coaches, Bobo, moving on, Derek Mason, moving on, like a number of assistants, moving on, leaving, trying to fill this. Then, the alleged incident or the alleged relationship with a staffer there, young female. And so it looked like, I honestly thought everything was moving for Brian Harsin to lose his job. You saw all the evidence, all the inertia, the momentum, it was all going against him. He's on vacation after National Signing Day and brought in a decent class, top 20 class. Wasn't top 10, but it was admirable given all the turnover and everything that happened. There was a ton of guys who were leaving the program, transferring out. It seemed like everything was in disarray. And there was no way Brian Harsin would survive this unless it was financial. And so let's get into the financials of this. In the Auburn, he's meeting with Henry Jimenez, who is a big-time college sports attorney. They're trying to figure out all the legalities and everything. Auburn had brought him in to kind of handle all this. But Auburn ends the 2021 season on a 5-game losing streak. Not great by any stretch. 3-5 in the SEC. Momentum going against. Now we've got some momentum going for. And it's simply financial. $18 million buyout would be going to Harsin, $9 million payable within 30 days. And so I don't care how much money you have as a university and your boosters. That's a big check to write immediately after someone leaves. And so you'd have to then pay a new coach. That guy's not going to be cheap. He's probably going to demand at least $6 million a year. New staff, all those different things. And by the way, you're paying $18 million over the course of the deal and $9 million within 1 month of Brian Harsin's termination. If you fire him after the 2022 season, after this year, still getting $15 million. So it's not, the buyout only decreases $3 million. It's not all that more beneficial to just wait another year. So you're kind of stuck with this guy unless you want to pay big time bucks. Now, some momentum back going for him. You know, Chandler Wooten, one of their linebackers, captain of the team, huge defender of what Harsin was trying to do. So they had a soft culture. He was trying to promote change, you know, pushing some things, making the moves. And listen, confrontation breeds change. Change is tough. It doesn't always feel good. And so when you have one of your prominent players speaking out on your behalf, I think that speaks world, especially at a place like Auburn, who everybody wants to believe that you're just going in the right direction. I think you want to believe that you're Bama, but you understand that you're not quite there. But at least allow us to be trending upward to try to catch Bama, not a situation where we're falling further behind. And that's what it looked like. And so I think Chandler Wooten, him coming out, saying some things in a positive manner, saying he's making positive changes. He's trying to get rid of the soft players, the players who are culture issues, and building this thing right. I think that spoke volumes for his security. And then also the fact that he had a pretty fat buyout doesn't hurt. And we'll see where the investigation goes. He's vehemently denying and defending, himself up against some of those accusations as well that are going on with some of his staffers. So we'll kind of watch how this plays out. We'll monitor it. He's going to still have to turn around and try to get to perform as well as he can in 2022. But at least it looks now like Auburn will have the same head coach for 2021 and this following 2022 season, and they won't be on their third coach in as many years. Some more of the Super Bowl news, because it's something that you can talk about for an entire week. I'm going to dive into the ratings. And the question is, does Los Angeles, do they even really deserve a team, let alone two? No one cares about the Chargers. People tacitly care about the Rams. The real team they care about was the Oakland Raiders, who are now in Las Vegas. But there was no way the NFL was going to give Mark Davis the key to the city of angels and build a beautiful new stadium. He didn't have the cash to do it. He'd have to bring in a partner, and he did that in Vegas. But they didn't want the guy with the bowl cut out there being the face of one of the most prominent cities in all of America with their NFL football team. And so they give it to the Rams. And Kroenke's done a great job. He built a beautiful stadium. SoFi is fantastic. They're going to have like a 20-acre complex around it, maybe even bigger than that. Hotels, everything, the works. Maybe it's 200-acre. I think I misspoke on that. Massive, massive deal. It's going to be beautiful. They're checking everything. He's invested in his team to winning. But do people in LA actually care? Do they actually care? San Francisco filled up the NFC Championship game. So it looks and it appears like it's more of a town of the visiting teams, a la a little bit Arizona Cardinals. And that's never the situation you want to be in if you're trying to build a team and a program. You have a team that went to the Super Bowl that has stars in Von Miller, Aaron Donald, Odell Beckham Jr., Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford. You're bringing all these guys. And what does it get you? So 101 million people watch this thing on television across all networks. Another, 11 or so million streamed it. So you're at 112, highest rated Super Bowl in the last 5 years since Tom Brady and the Patriots had the massive comeback against Matt Ryan, who will be another featured piece in this. Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons, now 28-3, one of the greatest comebacks you're ever going to see. So you understand why that rate's high. You get it. But number one city, Cincinnati, you get it. Their team is there. You understand why. They haven't been there in a long time. Passionate fan base for the most part. They care. It had been, a little standoffish as of late, but now that they're back to winning, the Cincinnati Bengal faithful, the Houday Nation, they want to go all in on it. And then second, you think Los Angeles. Nope, not Los Angeles. You have Detroit sitting there too. Matt Stafford's former team, the scorned lover, and I don't think they really felt like that, but we'll call him the ex-wife, going there and watching their guy and probably gaining some pleasure thinking, you know what, if we could have only built a team, this could have been our lives. If we wouldn't have messed this up, this could have been us. We could have been the Los Angeles Rams. We had Calvin Johnson, we had Ndamukong Suh, we've had Matt Stafford. We got close, could never win a playoff game, but it could have been there. So Detroit comes in second with the rankings. Then it's got to be Los Angeles. Nope. Another team from the AFC North, another city, Pittsburgh. They're diving in. You know why? Because Pittsburgh's a football city. Number 4, now it's LA. Nope. Another Columbus or another Ohio city, Columbus, Ohio. They're diving in. A lot of Bengals fans here, but still, it's the third team. You've got probably Cleveland, then Pittsburgh, finally the Cincinnati Bengals for your team in Columbus. I would know, this is where I live. I understand it. 5, Kansas City, huge football market. They love the NFL. Tied for 6, got to be LA. Nope. Milwaukee, another AFC North team. Cleveland, both sitting there at 6. 8 is Boston. Well, because they're just used to watching Super Bowls with Tom, watching the Super Bowl basically every other year and winning, a third of those, 2/3 of those. 9 is Philadelphia, who are just gluttons for punishment. And then 10, you have a city that can't even fill their own stadium with fans in Jacksonville, but yet they're the 10th highest rated market. Now, I understand this. Matt Stafford went to Georgia. A lot of Georgia Bulldogs fans probably in Jayville. They have the world's largest cocktail party there, Georgia, Florida, every year. But it's befuddling to me how in the top 10 rated cities for the Super Bowl, you can't and don't have Los Angeles. They have got to do some serious marketing. They've got to get out in the community. You have to get people on the West Coast to care about football. They do in San Francisco, but you have to find a way to do it in Los Angeles. You have to find a way to do it with the Rams. Like, they don't care about college for the most part. They don't care about the NFL, and you have the Super Bowl champions. And so I cannot wait to watch next year to see how these games fill up. When they have some of these big name teams come in from out of division, and even San Francisco coming down, can they fill it up with their own fans, or is it filled with the opposition? Stan Kroenke's got to get that fixed because they've got a great product. You have a great team full of stars in a city of stars. It should check every box. It should be the new Lakers. Can't get it done. Matt Stafford, the case for the Hall of Fame. I'm not going to sit here and tell you today that Matt Stafford is a Hall of Famer. As it stands now, he's got a great case. Look at all the yards he's thrown to. He's going to end up being top 10 in yards, maybe top 5, touchdown passes, completions, all of these things. If assuming he plays, he's still a young guy. He's got another 4 or 5 years left in him easy with how he takes care of his body if you surround him with a good team. So Hall of Famer today, as it sits, no. But I said this was a Hall of Fame playoff run for him and a Hall of Fame game because I believe he'll be able to add some more playoff wins, stack stats, some more memorable moments. And by the end of his career, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Richard Sherman, Super Bowl winner, very talented player, comes out and staunchly disagrees about Matt Stafford being a Hall of Famer, wants to water it all down. And I get it. We lean on quarterbacks more because they're the stars. Everybody loves them. Everybody wants to put them in. But he's like, only made, I think, 1-2 Pro Bowls, not on the all-decade team, never won an MVP. And so to those things, I say, you know what, a lot of that depends on the team you're on and how good they are. You saw what he did in 1 year, going from Detroit to Los Angeles, and how he was able to impact that franchise in a positive way. Tampa Bay against Tom, storming back. It's 27-all. Guy leads a drive, throwing a couple balls to Cooper Kupp, game-winning field goal. You saw what he did, 17-7 against San Francisco, leads a game, leads it back and to be able to go get it done. And then you saw what he did in the Super Bowl, down a score, playing a great second half. Yeah, he threw 2 picks. It wasn't a perfect game, but he still did really well. And so Richard Sherman throws out, he doesn't even have an MVP. Matt Ryan has that. Well, Matt Ryan also had a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl and managed to lose it. Couldn't even get 1 first down. Couldn't get a first down at the end of the game when you needed to run the clock out. Matt Stafford came back and put together an epic performance. When his career's over, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Is he one today? Probably not. But here's the good news. his story isn't finished being written, and he's going to get a chance to add some chapters on it. And I can't wait to see what the remainder of that looks like. Now, Matt Stafford hurt his knee in the game. Joe Burrow also tweaked his knee. They came out, sprained MCL. And, this is the stuff of legend. Never even got evaluated on the sideline. Joe Burrow, been through a lot, torn an ACL on his other knee, comes to the sideline. We see him limp off, has to get helped up by his teammates. Doesn't even get examined, doesn't even get evaluated. That's the question, why? Why wouldn't you get evaluated? Well, said I didn't matter. I wasn't coming out anyway. That is the type of leader you want on your team. Right there. I'm not coming out of the game. So you looking at me isn't going to make one iota of difference unless I can't go. And he went and played fairly well. Obviously not quite as mobile in the second half, and he was getting shelled the entirety of the game, but not coming out. That's the type of leadership you want in your quarterback. And so with that, we transition to another quarterback who might be lacking some of those same leadership qualities. Kyler Murray. People have kind of beat him up recently, $50 to $55 million. Well, that's leaked out. Obviously, negotiations aren't going well. The Cardinals kind of balked at that and probably scoffed. Then you start to hear these allegations and accusations where he's not really a leader. He's not a first in, last out guy. And that might be true. If those things are coming out, if they're easily refutable, then I think they'd be refuted by now. But you see his body language during the game, and I'm big on that stuff, but I'm not going to say it's the be all end all, because all quarterbacks are going to be different. All human beings are different with how they respond. But I do think that he does have a leadership issue, and there is a void there. And he needs to be able to gobble that up as the quarterback. And so as you had Larry Fitzgerald move on, you have AJ Green, Nuke Hopkins with him coming in, he's injured. JJ Watt, he comes in, he gets injured. Chandler Jones, you have all these other great players, Pro Bowlers, but the quarterback still needs to be the leader of the team, especially when you have a guy who's taken first overall, who you think is your franchise guy. And this is a problem, and this is a product. It's not true for everybody, but when you have to command a huddle as a child, young man, you learn those leadership characteristics. You have a bad play, you get sacked, you get up, you get the play coming in, and you call it, you keep your offense calm, and you move forward. And so as we've seen the proliferation of the spread and the no huddle, quarterbacks don't have to do that anymore. A lot of times with guys, it's hardwired into their DNA. They're naturally that leader. And so whether they're in a huddle or not, they're going to command the same presence and the same focus as if they run in no huddle or as if they're huddling up every play. It's not going to make a difference. But some guys, and Kyler Murray, personality-wise, he might be that dude that it stunted his growth as a leader to never be in a huddle and running no huddle stuff all through college, presumably all through high school, because you never have to take that commanding presence. You never have to stare at guys when things are going bad. You never have to sit there and after getting sacked and beat up, tell your guys, hey, it's good. I got to get rid of the ball faster. Or, hey, can you give me another second? And not blame people, but ask them for more. That's what leadership is, asking for more of your team while giving them everything you have, but elevating the guys around you. And a lot of those conversations happen in the huddle and in between plays. So when you don't have that, you don't learn that. And so that void, that might be what's happened a little with Kyler. Personality always plays into it. It's a big deal. Everybody is going to be different. But with that, there is some development that can occur. And maybe it didn't occur when he was younger at an earlier age. Other quarterback news. Looks like Wentz is going to be out in Indy. They paid a hefty price tag, multiple picks, first round pick that, conditional, but he played. He hit all the numbers. He hit the target. Indy didn't make it in the playoffs. They had a great team around him. And so this is the irony as we see Matt Stafford go from Detroit to Los Angeles and ultimately win a Super Bowl. And Clay Travis, our guy, put this out there, and it was unbelievably salient. It was an awesome point. He's like, Detroit had a quarterback for 12 years. And really, Stafford was playing really well for the last 10 of them. He was beat up early in his career. He's able to shed that, injury tag motto and move forward and be the guy that everyone thought he could be coming out. But Detroit had the quarterback. Most of the other league is always looking. The rest of the league, they're looking around, trying to figure out who can be this guy. Los Angeles identified him, went and got him, changed their fortunes. You think about some of these other teams and looking around, you've got Cleveland. Baker might bounce back and might be better. We'll see. He's got the shoulder injury. But if they had a great quarterback, you put Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow on that team, they're making it to the championship game, maybe the Super Bowl, but they're at least winning a playoff game, probably too. You look at Indy with Carson Wentz, just mentioned him. They gave up all this draft capital to get a guy, and they still don't have one. And now you've got this team built around them that with an average quarterback, you're going to probably be right on the fringe of the playoffs, which is what they were. And you're never going to be high enough to draft that guy in the top 5. That's why you have to get the quarterback first and then build around him, because the quarterback will make you better if they have people around you who are good. San Francisco, same thing. Jimmy Garoppolo getting you close. They drafted Trey Lance. Now they're going to probably be moving on from Jimmy G. And it's not that he's bad, but he's not elite. You need to find that guy. Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill gets you to the number 1 seed. You made a run to the AFC Championship last year. You're a good team. You have a great roster and a functional quarterback who's good and sometimes really good. But you don't have that great guy. Trying to find him. Minnesota. Maybe their window's closed. Maybe they can get it back open again. Kirk Cousins. People want to say he's bad. He's not bad. He's average, can be good, and sometimes really good. But very rarely can he go win the game for you, and you win always because of him. Sometimes you do, but a lot of times he needs an infrastructure built around him. And most quarterbacks do to a certain extent. But Matt Stafford was dragging Detroit along with him. And I should know, I was there. He was pulling us. Oh, he had Calvin Johnson. Okay. Yeah, Calvin Johnson led the league in touchdowns and all this stuff throughout his time. Well, yeah, now he has Cooper Kupp. A little bit is the ability, and a lot of it actually is the ability for the quarterback to get it to their receivers and get it to those guys and know where they like the football, throwing them open, doing all those different things. That is a testament sometimes of a great quarterback. There's a lot of guys who have great receivers and still can't get it done. Matt Stafford is able to get it done with those guys. And so as all these teams that are good, we talk about that are, 6, 7 win teams or higher, some of them winning, 10, 11 games, they have the roster. They just don't have the quarterback. And for 10 years, 12 years in Detroit, they had the quarterback and couldn't get the rest of the roster right. Unreal. Eric Weddle. There was some noise coming out about him just being a ring chaser, coming back to chase a ring. Well, heck, if someone calls me, a team I played for, and I'm still in good enough shape to play, and they want me to come help them, I'm going to go do it. I'm going to give them my services, especially if you feel like the team's good enough to win. But Eric Weddle, you would call him a ring chaser. It's expensive for him to chase a ring. Physically, the physical toll on your body is intense at that age. He hasn't played football in 2 years. He comes back. He's in shape. He's fast enough to get it done. Plays out of his mind, leads his team in tackles, quarterback of the defense, calling out all the defenses, and all of a sudden tears his pec and plays 3 quarters with it. And the bruising and the pictures you can see on social media is gross. Eric Weddle, I tip my cap to you, man. You're a warrior. You're a boss. You're retiring for good this time. And I'm glad you're able to chase and go get your ring. Devontae Adams throws out a tweet about Cooper Kupp, and now he looks like Nostradamus. I want to talk about why this is. It said Cooper Kupp is the most underrated receiver in the league. Why is he the most underrated receiver in the league? Well, he's a 6-foot white dude. And everybody looks at him like, this guy can't be great. He doesn't pass the eye test. He doesn't check all the boxes that we have. Well, he's pretty fast, runs great routes. And Devontae Adams, who most people would say is the best player in the league, the best receiver in the league, he's recognizing that talent on the other side. He sees it. And guys who play against him, guys who play out there, play the same position, play defensive back, as soon as you get to play against a guy like that, you believe the hype. You see it because it's on the field. It's production. Us as fans, we look at this and, people are like, Cooper Kupp, he kind of looks like me. He's 6 foot, white dude, pretty fast. But a lot of guys, people think in their mind, I was fast in high school. He can't be that much faster than me. Cooper Kupp's a great athlete. He's a great route runner, and he's tough, and he's got speed to get on top of dudes. I don't know what he runs in the 40, but he's definitely fast enough with his great route running ability and how to never tip his hand and his brakes. Man, it's good stuff. It's really, really good stuff. And so Davante Adams picked up on it before anyone else did. Davante Adams, maybe you should be an elite scout in the NFL. You seem to know how to identify these great receivers. Speaking of Davante Adams, the Packers said they're willing to do anything to keep Aaron Rodgers. Packers fans, should be good news for you. Here's the problem. To keep Aaron Rodgers is going to be tough. You're going to have to move a lot of money around to try to keep the team the way it is. Because part of keeping Aaron is him believing that you have a chance to go win a Super Bowl. That means bringing Davante Adams back. It's going to be expensive. And so what you're going to ultimately have to do is the New England Patriots, what they did when they went all in. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to a certain extent, when they went all in with Tom Brady. You push all that money into the future and understand that you're going to have to pay the piper at some point in time. And you're going to be in cap hell. It's going to be misery. But is it worth it to try to go make a run? I'm glad Brian Gutekunst up there, the GM, believes that that's the case, because I think you've got it with Aaron. You've got a shot. And it's still, I believe, his best chance to win a Super Bowl is there in Green Bay next year and possibly the year after. So can you push enough of that money into the future, get creative enough under the salary cap to understand that when it's time to pay the piper, it's going to be a full-on tear down and rebuild. But can you do that for another year or two to try to entice Aaron to come back? That's what they need to try to do. It's a difficult question you have to ask yourself if you're willing to endure some pain for a short-term gain, to get your Super Bowl fix and get Aaron Rodgers to come back. It's going to be a tough task for Brian Gutekunst. The guy who I feel really bad for is Jordan Love, because he's not going to get a chance to play with these receivers. He did this year, and you're like, not there yet. But when he does get his time, and if he gets his time in Green Bay, it's not going to be a great roster. They're going to be in full-on rebuild mode, and it's going to be really tough for him to deal with it, because he's not going to have the talent around him offensively, defensively, at the wide receiver position of the offensive line. He's going to have a lot of work that needs to get done. Well, that is all for this edition of Carp's Corner. Next time I'll be live to you from the ocean. I'll be able to pull all that out, get everything out there for you so we can continue to follow all the stuff that's going on in the NFL, any news and notes that are coming up from college, anything else that is topical and pertinent will be covered here on Carp's Corner. Thanks for listening.